A strong and unstoppable woman is not born, she is forged. She knows her worth, rises through storms, speaks truth with courage, loves herself without apology, and walks with purpose. Her strength is not just hers, it is a flame that lights the path for others to rise. Knowing your worth is the beginning of freedom, the seed of dignity, the foundation upon which every strong and unstoppable woman stands. Too often, women are told to measure themselves by the world's fleeting standards, by the way they look, the roles they play, or the approval they receive from others. But worth is not borrowed from outside voices. Worth is not stitched into the fabric of another's opinion. Worth is born within you, and no one can strip it away unless you hand it to them. When you know your worth, you do not beg for love, you do not crawl for respect, and you do not apologize for existing. You stand as tall as the mountains, certain that you belong here. You stop comparing your journey with another's because you know your own story carries beauty no one else can write. The world may try to convince you that you are too much or not enough, but knowing your worth silences those lies. It becomes the shield against every insult, every dismissal, every attempt to diminish you. There is a quiet power in the woman who knows her worth. She is not loud out of desperation, but steady out of conviction. She doesn't need to prove herself because her value is not up for negotiation. She no longer waits for applause to affirm her steps, nor does she shrink when others cannot see her light. She keeps shining, knowing her brilliance was never meant to be hidden beneath someone else's shadow. Knowing your worth teaches you how to say no without guilt, and yes without fear. You no longer settle for half love or broken respect. You do not make a home in places that do not honor your presence. You learn to walk away, even with trembling hands, because you understand that peace is worth more than proximity, and dignity is worth more than comfort. You choose to be alone with integrity rather than together with compromise. This sense of worth transforms the way you love yourself. You stop starving yourself for validation and instead feed your soul with patience, compassion, and truth. You look into the mirror and see not flaws to be fixed, but a masterpiece still unfolding. You stop asking the world for permission to exist beautifully. You stop apologizing for the fire in your voice, the curve of your body, the depth of your dreams. You recognize that being yourself fully is not arrogance, it is reverence for the life given to you. When you know your worth, your relationships change. You no longer chase those who run, nor do you cling to those who cannot hold you with care. You understand that love is not meant to wound or belittle. You do not allow anyone to treat you as if you are replaceable because you know you are rare, unique, and irreplaceable. Your presence becomes a gift, not a bargain. Your love becomes a blessing, not a currency. Your worth also redefines the way you move through challenges. Struggles no longer break you because you know they cannot touch what is eternal within you. Failure may visit, but it does not decide your value. Rejection may sting, but it does not dictate your place. A woman who knows her worth does not crumble when doors close. She builds her own, and if need be, she walks through the wilderness, knowing even there, she carries the light of her being. This knowledge shapes the way you dream. You do not shrink your visions to fit into the comfort of others. You do not dim your passion to avoid intimidating those who cannot yet see their own power. You do not lower your standards so that others can rise without effort. Instead, you stand tall and dream boldly because you understand that your worth entitles you to a life of fullness, not scarcity. To know your worth is to reclaim your voice in a world that often tries to silence it. It is to walk with the unshakable truth that you deserve respect, joy, and love, not because of what you do or give, but because of who you are. And when a woman truly knows her worth, she becomes unshakable, unstoppable, and undeniable. She does not chase the world. She lets the world rise to meet her. Resilience is the quiet strength that carries you through storms and lays you gently on the shore, bruised perhaps, but never broken. To stand in resilience is not to avoid pain, but to meet it with the unyielding spirit that refuses to surrender. It is to acknowledge the weight of life, to feel it pressing down upon your shoulders, and still rise with steady breath, still walk with steady steps, still stand when everything around you begs you to fall. Resilience is not born in comfort. It is born in the fire of trials, in the ache of loss, in the sting of rejection, in the loneliness of nights when you wonder if you will ever find your way again. It is in those dark places that the roots of your strength dig deep into the soil of your soul, anchoring you against the winds of despair. A woman who stands in resilience is not untouched by pain. She carries her scars with grace, each one a testament that she has survived what once threatened to destroy her. When you stand in resilience, you learn that falling is not failure. You understand that even the most powerful must sometimes kneel, not in defeat, but in renewal. The ground does not hold you captive. It simply reminds you how far you can rise again. Every setback becomes a stepping stone. Every wound becomes a teacher. You learn that tears do not weaken you. They water the seeds of wisdom within you. Resilience teaches you patience. It shows you that storms do not last forever, and neither does sorrow. It reminds you that healing is not rushed, that broken things can be mended, and that a new dawn always waits beyond the night. A resilient woman does not demand a life free of trials. She accepts that trials are inevitable, but believes that triumph is possible. She trusts that her spirit is stronger than any hardship, that her heart has the capacity to expand even after it has been shattered, and that her journey is not ended by detours but reshaped by them. To stand in resilience is also to embrace change. Life will twist and turn, and the ground beneath you will shift without warning. What once felt certain may crumble, and what once felt safe may vanish. But resilience whispers, you will adapt, you will grow, you will survive this too. A resilient woman does not cling to what has already ended. She releases it with grace and opens herself to the unknown. She trusts that even in uncertainty, she carries the strength to endure and the vision to rebuild. Resilience is not about hardness, it is about flexibility. A tree that refuses to bend will break in the wind, but one that sways will endure. The resilient woman bends, but she does not break. She allows herself to feel, to grieve, to stumble, but she never allows herself to quit. Her strength is not rigid but alive, breathing with her, moving with her, shifting as life requires. Standing in resilience transforms the way you see yourself. You stop defining yourself by the tragedies you have faced, and you start defining yourself by the victories you have claimed in spite of them. You begin to recognize that survival itself is a form of success. You see yourself not as a victim of life's cruelty, but as the evidence of life's beauty, that no matter what has tried to silence you, here you stand, unbroken, unbowed, and unafraid. Resilience also becomes a beacon for others. When people see you rise again and again, they find courage to rise themselves. Your survival becomes their inspiration. Your endurance becomes their lesson. Your strength becomes their hope. To stand in resilience is not only to empower yourself, but to breathe life into others who wonder if they too can make it through their storms. And so resilience is not merely surviving. It is surviving with grace, enduring with dignity, and rising with determination. It is the voice inside you that says, "This is not the end. This is only the beginning of a new strength." A resilient woman is unstoppable, not because she has never fallen, but because she has chosen to rise every single time. To speak with courage is to step into the fullness of your voice and allow it to echo through the world without apology. Too often, women are told to soften their tone, to bite their tongue, to swallow truths that burn within them. But silence does not keep the peace, it only buries the truth. A woman who dares to speak with courage is a woman who has decided her words matter, her truth matters. Her very voice is worthy of being heard. Courageous speech is not loudness for the sake of noise. It is clarity born of conviction. It is not about speaking to be liked, but speaking to be real. When you speak with courage, you stop rehearsing words to make them palatable for others, and you begin to honor what your heart truly wants to say. You learn that your voice is not meant to be a whisper lost in the background of other people's opinions, but a steady song that carries the rhythm of your truth. To speak with courage is not always easy. The world often punishes women for their words, calling them too strong, too outspoken, too difficult. But courage is not about avoiding fear. It is about moving through it. Every time you use your voice, you challenge the silence that has kept generations before you bound. Every time you name what hurts, what heals, what inspires, you break the chains of secrecy and shame. Your courage becomes an inheritance for the women who will come after you, teaching them that their words, too, are sacred. Courage in speech does not mean you will never tremble. Your voice may shake, your heart may pound, your hands may quiver. But courage is not the absence of trembling. It is the decision to speak anyway. The trembling makes it even more powerful, for it shows the world that you chose truth over fear, honesty over silence, authenticity over approval. A trembling voice still carries the power to shift rooms, to open eyes, to heal wounds. When you speak with courage, you draw boundaries with clarity. You no longer allow others to define what you should accept. You say no when something dishonors your spirit, and you say yes when opportunity aligns with your purpose. Boundaries are not walls. They are declarations of self-respect. Speaking them aloud requires courage, but once spoken, they create space for peace, freedom, and dignity. Speaking with courage also means telling your story, not the polished version, not the edited fragments, but the raw truth of who you are and what you've endured. Stories have power. They connect us, heal us, and remind us we are not alone. When you speak your story, you give permission for others to tell theirs. You strip shame of its hiding place and turn wounds into wisdom. A courageous voice does not just liberate itself, it liberates others. To speak with courage is to challenge injustice. It is to look at systems, traditions, or behaviors that wound and declare, this is not right. It may cost you comfort, it may cost you approval, but courage demands you stand on the side of truth. Silence in the face of injustice only strengthens the chains of oppression. Your words may not change the entire world at once, but they can ignite sparks of change, and those sparks spread faster than you imagine. Speaking courageously also transforms the way you love. Love without truth is fragile, built on unspoken resentment and unvoiced needs. Courageous speech allows you to express what you feel, what you desire, what you cannot accept. It builds relationships that are real and lasting because they are rooted in honesty. To speak with courage is to love with depth, to let your truth be a bridge rather than a barrier. A woman who speaks with courage does not seek to dominate others with her words, but to stand in her truth without fear. She knows that her voice carries power, not because it is louder than anyone else's, but because it is authentic, unshaken, and free. She does not whisper when she has the right to roar, and she does not roar when silence would be more dignified. Courage teaches her the balance, when to speak, when to listen, and when to rise. And so, to speak with courage is to declare to the world, I am here, I matter, and I will not be silenced. It is to let your words become lanterns in dark spaces, bridges in divided places, and seeds in barren ground. A courageous voice may not always be welcomed, but it will always be remembered. To embrace self-love is to finally return home to yourself. It is the act of recognizing that you are not incomplete, not lacking, not unworthy, but already whole. For too long, women have been conditioned to pour themselves out for others until their own cup runs dry. They are told to measure their value by what they give, what they sacrifice, how much they endure. But self-love whispers a different truth. It says you are worthy, not because of what you do for others, but because of who you are. Self-love is not selfishness. It is survival. It is saying to yourself, I matter too. To embrace it is to honor the body you live in, the mind that carries your thoughts, and the spirit that keeps you alive. It is to stand before the mirror and see not just the reflection of skin and bone, but the miracle of your existence. It is to forgive yourself for mistakes, for failures, for times when you fell short of your own expectations. Self-love holds your hand and tells you, you are still enough. You are still deserving. You are still worthy of joy. When you embrace self-love, you stop begging for scraps of affection from those who cannot see your value. You no longer cling to toxic relationships that drain you of your peace. You learn to walk away from tables where respect is not served. You begin to choose yourself, not because you are arrogant, but because you understand that choosing yourself is the first step to living fully. The love you give to yourself sets the standard for the love you accept from others. Self-love changes the way you speak to yourself. The harsh critic in your mind softens. Instead of tearing yourself down with words of doubt, you build yourself up with words of kindness. You begin to cheer for yourself, to celebrate small victories, to comfort yourself in moments of pain. You no longer speak to yourself with cruelty because you realize that your own voice has the power to heal or to harm, and you choose healing. To embrace self-love is also to care for your needs without shame. Rest when you are weary. Nourish your body when it is hungry. Protect your peace when it is threatened. The world may tell you that worth comes from constant productivity, but self-love knows that you are not a machine. You are a living being, and your rest, your joy, your peace are just as important as your labor. Self-love is the soil where confidence blooms. When you love yourself, you no longer shrink to fit into places that cannot hold you. You no longer compare your journey to another's because you know your path is unique, your timing is divine, and your story is valuable. You stop hiding your light for fear of outshining others. Instead, you shine unapologetically, knowing that another's brightness does not dim your own. Embracing self-love also means accepting your flaws. You stop chasing perfection and begin embracing authenticity. You understand that your scars tell stories of survival, your stretch marks speak of growth, your wrinkles reveal wisdom. You do not need to erase them. You honor them as proof of life. Self-love allows you to stand in your imperfections and still declare, I am beautiful, I am worthy, I am enough. When you love yourself, you also protect your dreams. You no longer allow others to convince you to settle for less, to abandon your passions, or to silence your voice. You become your own advocate, your own protector, your own greatest believer. Self-love gives you the courage to pursue what sets your soul on fire, even if others do not understand. It gives you permission to live boldly, to live freely, to live fully. Most of all, self-love teaches you how to love others without losing yourself. You give from abundance, not depletion. You set boundaries that protect your heart while still allowing you to connect deeply. You stop seeking validation through others and instead allow relationships to be a reflection of love you already carry within. Loving yourself makes your love purer, stronger, and freer because it is no longer rooted in need but in overflow. To embrace self-love is to embrace life itself. It is to walk through the world with the quiet confidence that you belong here just as you are. It is to know that your worth does not decrease when others fail to see it. It is to hold yourself gently, fiercely, and faithfully, because at the end of every day, you are the one you must come home to. To walk with purpose is to move through the world with intention, with direction, with a fire in your step that no distraction can extinguish. It is to wake each day not drifting aimlessly, but anchored in the knowledge that your life carries meaning beyond survival. A woman who walks with purpose does not stumble blindly into her days. She chooses her path, even when the ground beneath her feels uncertain. She knows her presence is not accidental, that every step she takes is part of a greater story unfolding through her. Purpose is not always loud or grand. It does not always shout from mountaintops or roar like thunder. Sometimes it whispers quietly within your heart, urging you forward, guiding you to take the next step, even if you cannot yet see the entire road ahead. To walk with purpose is to trust that whisper, to lean into that inner compass, and to believe that even small steps carry great weight when they are aligned with truth. When you walk with purpose, distractions lose their power. The opinions of others may surround you, but they no longer dictate your path. You no longer chase validation or bend yourself into shapes that do not fit. Instead, you walk steadily in your own rhythm, knowing that your journey does not require approval. Your feet know where they belong, and they will not be swayed by envy, comparison, or doubt. Walking with purpose gives you resilience when life feels heavy. Trials will come, storms will rage, doors will slam shut. But when your steps are rooted in purpose, you do not collapse under the weight. You bend, you adjust, you pause, but you keep moving. Purpose becomes the torch that lights your way in darkness, reminding you that the struggle is not the end, but part of the process. You are not lost. You are becoming. A purposeful walk is not hurried. It does not rush to prove itself, nor does it stumble in desperation to keep pace with others. It moves steadily, with confidence, with patience. You understand that timing is sacred, that your path cannot be rushed or delayed by anyone else's clock. Purpose allows you to slow down and breathe, to savor the journey instead of obsessing only over the destination. Each step becomes sacred, each moment meaningful, because you know it is all leading you closer to who you are meant to be. To walk with purpose is also to walk with clarity about your values. You know what you stand for, what you believe in, what you will not compromise. This clarity becomes your compass, guiding your decisions, shaping your choices. You no longer wander into places that rob you of dignity, nor do you waste time in circles that diminish your light. Your values become the guardrails that keep you steady, ensuring that every step honors your spirit. Purpose also expands the way you see your influence. You begin to recognize that your steps do not just carry you, they leave footprints for others to follow. The way you live, the way you rise, the way you endure becomes a map for someone else searching for direction. Walking with purpose means understanding that your life is not just about your own survival, but about the legacy you leave in the lives you touch. Even in the smallest of acts, kindness given, truth spoken, love shared, you plant seeds that will bloom long after you have passed by. When you walk with purpose, fear loses its grip. Doubt may whisper, uncertainty may hover, but they cannot paralyze you. Purpose fuels courage. It reminds you that fear may exist, but it does not define you. You walk forward not because the path is free of obstacles, but because the mission within you is greater than the fear before you. Each step forward becomes an act of defiance against doubt, an affirmation that you will not stand still when your soul is calling you to move. Walking with purpose also changes the way you carry yourself. There is a steadiness in your eyes, a strength in your stride, a quiet authority in your presence. People may not know your story, but they feel your certainty. They sense that you are a woman who knows where she is going, even if the road is not yet visible. Purpose radiates through your posture, your words, your choices. It becomes the rhythm of your life. And so, to walk with purpose is to live with intention, to let your steps be guided not by fear or confusion, but by clarity and conviction. It is to move forward even when the way is hard, to keep faith even when the horizon is hidden, to trust that each step matters because it brings you closer to the life you were born to live. To inspire others is to live in such a way that your very presence becomes a light in the lives of those around you. Inspiration is not found in perfection, nor is it born from a life free of mistakes. It is found in the authenticity of your journey, the way you stumble and rise, the way you endure and still shine, the way you continue to move forward even when life has pressed you to the ground. To inspire others is to be a living testament that strength is possible, hope is real, and transformation is within reach. A woman who inspires does not need to speak loudly or carry titles that impress. Her power lies in her example. She may be the quiet voice that comforts, the steady hand that supports, or the radiant spirit that refuses to be dimmed. Inspiration is not about commanding attention, but about awakening something in others. The belief that they too are capable of greatness, that they too can rise from hardship, that they too have a light worth sharing. To inspire others, you must first be true to yourself. People are not moved by masks or performances. They are moved by truth. When you embrace your flaws and share your story with honesty, you remind others that they do not need to be perfect to be powerful. When you allow yourself to be seen, not just in your victories, but in your struggles, you give others the courage to face their own challenges without shame. Your vulnerability becomes strength, and your truth becomes their mirror. Inspiration is often found in the way you respond to adversity. When the world expects you to break and you choose to rise, others take notice. When life hands you sorrow and you still manage to create joy, others find hope in your resilience. When you fall and yet continue to rise with grace, others learn that falling is not the end. To inspire others is not to avoid the storm, but to show that it is possible to dance in the rain and emerge stronger on the other side. To inspire is also to lift others with your words. Words are powerful. They can wound or they can heal. A single word spoken with love can awaken someone's strength, remind them of their worth, or breathe life into a dream they had long abandoned. When you speak encouragement into the lives of others, you plant seeds that may bloom long after your voice has faded. Sometimes inspiration is nothing more than looking someone in the eye and saying, "You can, you are able, you are enough." But inspiration is not only about words, it is about action. The way you live becomes a lesson. When you work with integrity, others are moved to act with honesty. When you lead with compassion, others are inspired to be kinder. When you stand up against injustice, others find courage to do the same. You teach not by preaching, but by embodying the values you hold dear. Your life becomes the book others read, the example others follow, the story others others remember. Inspiring others does not mean carrying them on your back or solving their struggles for them. It means lighting the way so they can find their own strength. It means believing in them when they doubt themselves, reminding them of their potential when they forget, and celebrating them as they rise. True inspiration does not create dependence. It creates empowerment. It does not make others need you. It makes them see the power already living within themselves. To inspire is also to give without expectation. You do not seek applause, nor do you demand gratitude. You give because your spirit overflows, because your heart cannot help but shine. Inspiration comes from authenticity, not performance. The greatest impact you will ever have on others is often in moments you do not even realize. An act of kindness, a word of truth, a display of strength that others witness quietly and carry with them long after. A woman who inspires does not live only for herself. She lives with awareness that her existence is connected to countless others. Her courage becomes a foundation for someone else's bravery. Her persistence becomes a model for someone else's endurance. Her love becomes a refuge for someone else's weary soul. Inspiration is a ripple effect. What begins in you flows outward and touches lives you may never even meet. And so to inspire others is to live in alignment with your truest self, to rise in the face of challenges, to love openly, to lead with compassion, and to walk with integrity. It is to let your life be the kind of story that, when witnessed, reminds others of their own strength, their own worth, and their own light. A strong and unstoppable woman is not shaped by chance, but by choice, by the decision to know her worth, to stand in resilience, to speak with courage, to embrace self-love, to walk with purpose, and to inspire others. Each of these truths is not a destination, but a journey. They are not garments you put on once, but practices you live daily, shaping the way you rise, the way you move, the way you give. And when you embody them fully, you become more than just a woman surviving this world. You become a force that cannot be silenced, a light that cannot be dimmed, a legacy that cannot be erased. You become the living proof that strength and grace can walk hand in hand, and that an unstoppable woman does not just change her own life, she changes the lives of everyone she touches.